Hello and welcome. My name is Marie Yautz, and I am so excited for our visitors here today. First, I just want to let you know about some student services. You can find me upstairs on the 7th floor, or you can text me or email me. I work with students on accommodations. If you have any kind of disability, if this could be related to mental health, a physical disability, a chronic illness, if you're not sure if what's going on with you qualifies for an accommodation, please feel free to come and talk to me about it. I'm pretty approachable. We have candy upstairs, so just come on and say hey. And so I am so excited for our following conversation. And what I'm going to do is hand the mic over to Jill, and she's from Dysart, and she is going to introduce our speaker.
Hi, I'm Jill Vinn, and I am the co-founder and co-director of an organization that's called Dysart. We're a nonprofit organization that exists to push disability culture forward. And so I won't go into what that is, but what you will hear today is actually an example of a project that pushes disability culture forward. And so some people know in this room and have been with us since the beginning that Dysart actually has its beginnings thanks to Kendall College Park Design and Ferris. So the combination and UICA, and so our heart is very close to the school and have worked with students and faculty over the years. And so you may have seen us around, but can't tell you how thrilled it is to be able to come to the staff here, Tara and Jill and everybody else, and say, hey, we've got a project. What do you think? And they just resoundingly say yes, and listen, and we know that filters into the work that happens at the school because we've been here since the beginning. We know that access is a process. We know that learning is a process. We know that awareness is where we begin. And so if some of you are new to disability culture or not yet part of disability community, we hope that this is an invitation for you. We intend for feedback. I'm going to pass it to Oakley. Oakley is a friend of ours. We started working with Oakley for a project in 2019 that was called Voices, and it was an exhibition that was on display at Critical Infrastructure at Tanglefoot during Project One. So almost exactly 2 years ago. And so we got to know Oakley then as an artist and as an individual. And so we have been a follower of her Instagram. And are you telling this whole story? I won't get into it. So we overlap a bit. So anyways, the fact is that we contacted Oakley and said, hey, we just want to connect and see if there's something here. If there's a project that we can do together, because we just love each other and we want to figure this out. And that's how we work with lots of people in this audience as well. So I'm going to pass it over to Oakley. She is a student, a high school student that went to Interlochen. You're originally from Illinois, and is now at Cooper Union in New York, Manhattan. So all the way from New York City, here is Oakley Healy. No, we love Oakley, and you know, if she goes to Cooper Union and the work that she's doing, just keep following her. She's doing great things. Apologies, I'm back. Please feel free to come and go. If you need to leave, and for any reason, just leave. If you need to take a break, if you need to stand somewhere, if you need to move your chair, you want to sit on the floor, do whatever you need to do to make yourself feel comfortable. That's just something that we believe in, and we want to pass it on to all of you. Really good.
Okay, can everyone hear me okay? Okay, awesome. My name is Oakley Healy. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a white female with short brown hair. I'm wearing a suit jacket with jeans. I have a vehicle wheelchair, and my service dog is sleeping at my feet. But I'm a disability rights activist based in New York City, and I'm here to talk to you about the Dearest Friends project, which is a collaboration that I've started with DisArt, and KCAD has been gracious enough to let us to be one of our venues. And I'm also here to talk a little bit about my personal practice as a protest artist. So this first slide here, it's got my website, my contact information. Feel free to email me, but you'll see that at the end as well. This image description, the photo on this current slide is of me, a white woman with short brown hair. I'm wearing all black and I stand with a foldable cane in my studio in front of large black and white banners. The Dearest Friends origin story, which Jill sort of started to get into, but I'm gonna go into a little bit more in depth. So at the start of the pandemic, it's March of 2020, and I'm feeling a lot of mixed emotions. But most of all, I'm hearing my friends and my family say, you know, don't worry, only disabled and chronically ill will die from this pandemic, which is incredibly upsetting because I am disabled. I'm the person that they're talking about, and so I'm trying to process what's happening, and I'm also witnessing the news talk about disabled people as well. Disabled stories are being told from the non-disabled perspective, which is incredibly dangerous. So DisArt and I, we wanted to create a platform for disabled stories to be archived and amplified. We weren't sure what we were going to do, but we had a Zoom call and started working through that process. I had written a poem at the very start of the pandemic. This was right when shutdown was happening and nobody could leave their homes. It was a poem titled My Dearest Friends. And of course, I did not include this in the slide, but I think I have it memorized at this point. It read, my dearest friends, we mustn't let this be forgotten. The time the world gave perspective on a small portion of our struggles. We must make sure that this moment goes down in history so that we build a better world, a more accessible world, a world for everyone, a world for us. So with this poem, DisArt and I, we posted it on social media and we asked for the disability community to respond with their own thoughts and experiences in the same format. So everyone starts off with my dearest friends. They write about their stories from COVID and they sign it off with their first name. So let's see, the image description for this is a white wall completely covered in 8x10 abstract and charcoal drawings featuring various disabled figures and handwritten text. So whenever we receive a story, I illustrate a custom illustration for each one of those. This is a little bit about the submission process. If you feel inclined and you identify as disabled, definitely send in your story. There's the QR code here. But again, you'll find more contact information for us at the end. I think what's interesting about this story, this project, where it's crowdsourced, right? So we have over 400 stories at this time. And it's from multiple perspectives. It's not just from my perspective as the artist. I'm getting, you know, stories from across the globe, from different countries, from people who are newly disabled, and people who have grown up disabled, people who, you know, are, I think our youngest submitter was like 6 years old, which is amazing. We're hearing from everyone. So yeah, let's see. So this archive at the very beginning, it's still now, exists on Instagram. You can go to the Instagram and find every single submission that we've received so far. You can also see a little bit about our process and sort of behind the scenes stuff. But one moment, let me like catch my bearings. We started out on a digital platform, and then obviously here at KCAD, you've seen the vinyl installs. What we did recently for Art Prize was bring it from a digital platform to the physical realm, which is a really interesting process. There's You don't really have to have a budget to post anything. People also have this intimate and private experience with the work. You're viewing it, alone on your phone, but you can also swipe away very, very easily. And also the scale is lost. You can't really tell the scale of the work when it's on that digital platform. But one of the major pros, at least for me, is that controlled environment. Being able to post things online, I can, add image descriptions, I can add alt text. So making the archive accessible was very, very easy, which was a totally different story when we were trying to translate this into the physical realm, bringing these first in KCAD into our other locations throughout Grand Rapids. Accessibility becomes much harder to achieve. We're working with an uncontrolled environment. We're trying to figure out, how can we add image descriptions? How can we add audio tours? What happens when, different parts of the building are not accessible, and how can we make it accessible to our community? So that definitely changes things, but there's also pros to bringing it to the physical realm. There's the massive scale, and then it becomes a really tactile, real, and unavoidable experience, which is exciting. But yes, starting it out as a digital archive and then now translating it to the physical realm. An image description for this on the current slide is the My Dearest Friends Instagram page, featuring posts of Oakley Studio and charcoal drawings of disabled individuals. And there's the Instagram handle right up there. Oh boy. Okay, there we go. Oh, thought we were gonna have some technical difficulties. I could not have fixed that. Okay. So art prize. For art prize, we had this incredible opportunity to partner with Graham, which is our main venue. We also have 3 satellite locations, which is of course KCAD, and then also Mary Free Bed and the Children's Museum. So throughout art prize, and actually all the way until November 1st, so a little bit past art prize, you guys could go and experience these exhibitions throughout the city. These are just logos of the locations that I just described. But a little bit more on the process of bringing it from the digital to the physical realm. These are the banners for the Graham. These are 25 feet tall. Pieces for KCAD are a little bit smaller than that, but Graham's banners are actually the 2 of them are hand sewn on weatherproof fabric. I initially laser cut some of the fabric pieces and then just sort of puzzled them on there, and then sat there for a really long time hand sewing that. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears, quite literally. But an image description for this is Oakley Feely, a white woman wearing a red jacket and jeans, sits on the floor of her studio as she sews a 25-foot banner that is hanging from her wall. Her German Shepherd service dog sleeps on the floor across from her. So this is beginning that process with the Graham, and I think we went through a few variations of things, trying to figure out, we want these to be. I think all we knew was that we wanted it to be accessible and we wanted it to be massive. We also wanted it to be COVID safe. So the decision to have the exhibitions be outdoors was very deliberate. And yeah, that was what we were going off of at the very beginning. I think, let's see, sorry. Next slide. So as we're planning these exhibits with KCAD and Free Bed and Graham, all the locations, I'm also experiencing health issues. I identified as disabled well before this project started, but I was experiencing mental health issues early on. Since COVID, I began experiencing physical health issues as well. And so this deterioration of my body started to impact the way that I made art. I think, there were times where I couldn't hold a pencil. There were times where I was unable to move my legs, unable to speak. there's a time to rest, there's a time to make art. And if your body is telling you to rest, then rest. But if it is telling you to make art, then by all means, make art by any means possible. And so with my deteriorating health, I started building these adaptable art making tools. I use wooden rods, I use heated erasers, which act as really great grips. And these tools are really impermanent, but it allows me to sit in one place and stay stationary and still create these really large works. So that was another thing when I'm thinking about how am I going to build this art prize installation. How can I build it massively in a way that also preserves my energy levels? So trying to solve that problem, but image description, a variety of handmade drawing tools are laid out on a white background. The tools include a paintbrush with a kneaded eraser acting as a grip. Needed this spelled wrong, but paintbrush attached to a rod with a grip, and a charcoal taped to a stick of wood. So to the left is a digital photograph of Oakley Feely, a white woman wearing a jacket as she sits outdoors in front of a large piece of paper while operating one of the drawing tools. So yeah, that's a little bit of adaptive art making for you guys. And so materials choices for these installations. Because of my health, it's easier for me to work a little bit on a smaller scale. And also, of course, we're in the middle of the pandemic. The Dearest Friends project started, as I said, right at that start of lockdown. No one was leaving their houses, and so I did not want to leave my house on any non-essential trips. And despite my sole income coming from art, getting art supplies did not seem essential to me. So I had to find materials, I think like many of us did, I had to find materials that were in my home and that I had enough of. So I ended up creating this entire project using a stack of computer paper and a single charcoal stick. I think the other thing that's really great about the materials is how it really creates an accessible image. The image is high contrast, which helps visually impaired community members sort of view the work. It's also, I deliberately made it in a style that is very simplified, which makes it easier for us to write image descriptions about pieces. When I started for the Instagram, so how to put it, sorry guys. My making work for the digital versus the physical, despite these being two different ways of displaying pieces, my process was still the same. I didn't change the process, even though the scale of the pieces were going to be blown up very, very large. I still used the 8x10 computer papers. When I'm making it for Instagram, I'll probably use one sheet. When I end up doing it for the gram, I collaged it together and overlaid them on my windows. So multiple sheets of paper for the gram, but still the same medium. Image description. Charcoal drawings on computer paper are collaged together on a window revealing a man in a wheelchair holding a flag. The same illustrations for the previous photo is inverted and installed on an exterior wall of a building. Chris Schmidt is in front of the piece. So that's a little bit on materials and process. And then next comes the collaboration. This entire project has been collaborative from the start, and it definitely could not have grown to such a massive scale without it having collaboration at its core. So we had so many opportunities for collaboration. Desart and I, we worked with Fast Signs to install, which again, thank God we had Fast Signs because my health could not have managed installing such large works. And then even with KCAD, we're having regular meetings with KCAD trying to figure out, how do we want the display to work and different things. So having I don't know, collaboration is essential, I think, and I like to have it at the core of my practice. With the right people, it will only ever enhance the work. image descriptions, 2 blue ladders are placed in front of Graham's exterior windows as 2 individuals install the large black and white vinyl sheets. Half the window is completely covered in vinyl from top to bottom. The vinyl features white hand-drawn wheelchair with a portion of figure. So that's the beginning stages of install at the Graham. And this is a little bit more of Graham's as well as the Children's Museum installation. I just want to take a moment to talk a little bit about the depiction of disabled bodies in mass media and in museums. Put quite simply, there really isn't much accurate depiction of disabled people. It's impossible for me to go into a museum and find a figure or a portrait that looks like me. I can't find like a queer disabled woman with a mobility aid in a museum, and it's as a disabled artist, it's upsetting. But going to Graham and experiencing like these massive figures on the side was very surreal. I remember seeing the exhibit for the first time, and my first thought was, oh my gosh, it's someone that looks like me. Like, that was so thrilling that I forgot that it was my own piece. Like, the fact that it was my own piece didn't matter. It's the fact that there's a person with a wheelchair on the side of the museum. And that's such a giant victory for the disability community as a whole. But image descriptions, Chris and Oakley are pictured in front of the Grand Rapids Art Museum. The building's exterior windows are covered from top to bottom in vinyl featuring disabled figures. And then the second one on the right is of the Children's Museum windows, and it has a vinyl display of a young disabled girl with invisible disabilities. The cool thing about the Children's Museum and KCAD and Pre-Bed was that we worked with each institution to create a custom open call. So some of you guys might have seen KCADs actually, but we worked with the institutions and sent out a call for submissions, a call to ask disabled individuals within those specific communities to tell us our stories. KCAD was particularly interested in hearing stories from students who have invisible illness or mental health issues. The Children's Museum was interested in, of course, hearing stories from disabled children. And so I had the opportunity to talk to quite a few disabled kiddos. They were very sweet. But from there, we built this, again, a giant archive of various perspectives. And so that's the one that I chose for Children's Museum. All right, so representation. I'm going to a museum and not being able to find, work by disabled creatives or pieces that feature disabled people. It's upsetting. And even if we are to start, showing work by more disabled people, many of us cannot even view our own exhibitions. Even the other night, I could not view my own exhibition happening at the Graham because more often than not, aesthetics is put above accessibility. And that's how society operates, and we need to change that. But when I went to go view my exhibit for the first time at Graham, I found that the city was doing cosmetic updates on the sidewalks, and actually they're installing more bricks, and bricks themselves are also inaccessible. So it's not a great cosmetic update to begin with. But the construction is inevitable, like it needs to happen, but also they never provided an alternative route for people to safely, continue through the sidewalk. I was forced to bring my wheelchair over the grass, and then I was met with a dead end. And so this is what happens when accessibility is an afterthought, if it's even a thought at all. Thankfully, we were able to call the city early the next morning, and they managed to yeah, I don't know. It's in the image description, a sidewalk under construction with no alternative routes or ramps present. And then the second one is plastic orange barriers that are placed in a closed down street, allowing individuals to safely cross despite the sidewalk being under construction. I don't know, having a more accessible space, it doesn't only aid disabled people, it aids all of us. It makes, I mean, I don't know, it just, I'm gonna move on, otherwise I'll spend too much time on that. But creating a more accessible space, so speaking of that, the Dearest Friends Project, in conjunction with, the vinyl that's going up at these different locations, we've also produced a web-based app. This is an opportunity for community collaboration and different ways for audiences to interact with the artwork. So what we do, and you'll find these, we'll hand them out, but these are stickers. They're little decals. It says, well, that's not accessible, want to rebuild it with me. We encourage audience members after viewing the exhibits to go out into the city and, identify inaccessible barriers, whether it's cultural or social or physical. Like, there are so many barriers that disabled people experience because this society is ableist and inaccessible. And so finding them, identifying them, and installing these stickers at these locations. There is a QR code on the sticker. So when you install a sticker, scan the QR code and it will take you to the app, which you'll see on the right. That's the app's sort of interface. And it will take you through a process of logging this inaccessible space. So it'll ask you, you'll have an opportunity to geotag it. You can take a photo of the space. You can also write down, what happened there. Why is this space inaccessible? At the very end of Art Prize, we'll be doing this throughout all 3 weeks of Art Prize. At the very end of it, we'll have this, again, this crowdsourced collection of stories and images and footage, which we will then present to the city and say, this is what we need to work on, and let's make these changes. And I think what's really great about KCAD, we brought this idea to KCAD, and we brought it to a few institutions, actually. We've had some institutions tell us, they're scared about being tagged. They don't want these vinyl decals showing up across their building. It ruins the aesthetic. And also, what if it hurts the building? And to that I say, the sticker is a very minor inconvenience, but it's nothing compared to, the inconvenience that I experience when you don't have an updated ramp or when your doors don't work. And so, but KCAD was a very different story. KCAD was so receptive and so supportive, and they were like, we really invite our students to sticker us and to call out what's inaccessible, and they're very committed to making those changes, which is incredibly exciting, and not something that's common. It's hard to find an institution that's willing to work with us. So that's exciting, and I encourage you guys all to find your Jill afterwards and to grab a bunch of stickers. So yeah, the app is called the Man Access, by the way. I should have said that, but this is our prototype, and hopefully it'll grow even more. But KCAD has also asked me to talk a little bit about my personal practice, and we're going to switch gears a little bit, but it also is very much embedded within disability rights and culture. So it's not too much of a change. My work focuses a lot on, being a queer disabled female in 2020. No, it's 2021 now. Oh my God, it's 2021. And it focuses on, my relationship with my service dog Coco. I also talk a lot about, ableist institutions, specifically the ableist academic institutions that are built to sort of keep disabled bodies out. So I am a college student, and being disabled while at college is an incredibly difficult experience. I'm having to fight, day and night to have the same rights and experiences as my non-disabled peers. And so it doesn't make for a very safe or sustainable learning environment. So talk about that a lot in my work. But this is one of my most recent pieces. My college, despite me asking repeatedly, has neglected to give me a fire safety plan. I have no fire safety plan except that they have promised that they will come and get me in the case of fire. They're like, don't worry, we won't forget you. I was like, if there's a fire, there's a lot of things going on. You're gonna forget the one disabled person waiting by the stairs. So I made this piece. It reads, Dear Cooper, when your institution goes up in flames, my body will burn with it. Disabled people aren't fireproof. Get me a damn fire safety plan. Sincerely, Oakley. And then the drawing beside it is, of course, me in my wheelchair burning in a bunch of flames, because that will inevitably happen without that plan. There's a lot of ableism within that. Like, I don't know. There's a lot of ableism that I face as a disabled student. For example, elevators keep breaking. The elevator has broken twice within the first week of classes. And when I make those complaints, the security guard tells me, just get up and walk. Just get up and walk and take the stairs to class, which clearly isn't going to happen. And ramps, having ramps that work. I'm dealing with this all at school. I'm not going to talk about it. But anyways, not having a ramp that works is, sorry. See, this is the amount of stress that it puts on disabled students when they can't properly access classes. It's an emotional stress, and it's a stress that happens all the time. It's constantly at the back of my mind. And I'm panicking about, will the elevators work? More so than, how do I get my homework done? And can I listen to this lecture? I can't focus on the lectures because I'm so worried about being able to get into the doors. And that's just physical things. I mean, even absences. My school only allows me to be absent 2 times throughout the semester. As a person who struggles with mental health, I might need more than just 2 absences. So it's very, very hard to keep up with the workload and to have such a rigid structure. When your body is unpredictable, you really need to have that flexibility. So ableist institutions, that's just a lot of my work. And here's another piece of mine. This is a performance still. This performance is called Dear Dr. Nucci. In this performance, at the start, when I was, as my health conditions progressed, I began to realize that I might actually need a wheelchair. When I brought this up to my doctor in New York City, she told me not to get one. She said that it's not that I didn't qualify for one or anything like that. It was, New York City is inaccessible. So don't get one, don't burden yourself with, having to fight all of the accessibility issues. And that was incredibly upsetting to hear my own doctor say that. At least in my opinion, try to fight the ableist institutions that are put in place versus, telling a disabled person not to get a life-changing, energy-saving, pain-relieving medical device. And so, of course, I'm upset, so I make a piece about it. But I painted this giant banner, and it reads, "You told me that New York City isn't accessible, but you're forgetting that I'm a disability activist, and I'll from my apartment building all the way onto the subway, down to her office, and I installed it outside of her office. And I sat there across the street and stared into her window. So security was quite concerned, but that was the piece. And I stayed there for as long as my disabled body could, and then I made the trek back. But a lot of my work is, I think a lot about, protests and the disability rights movement and banners and signs and different ways that disabled individuals have utilized, these items to fight for their own rights. So yeah, text and large banners are definitely a huge part of my personal practice and not just part of, Dearest Friends as well. This is again an image description of the performance, of a picture of the performance, but the image description is of a white woman. I wear all black and I sit on the sidewalk in front of a red brick wall. Oh my gosh, there's so many typos in these image descriptions. I'm so sorry. Beside her is a painted banner that reads "Equally New York City is accessible." You're forgetting that I'm a disability activist. I'll just make New York City accessible. More on my personal practice. Another thing that I do within my personal practice, I've developed an alter ego. I use this alter ego to create quite a few works. His name is James Caden Crick. James is an old-time disability rights activist, and it's been an opportunity for me to sort of explore disability and its relations to sexuality. At the time that I had developed James, I was not ready to sort of openly, proclaim that I was a queer disabled person. I was still trying to work through that, and so James sort of served as an opportunity for me to still explore that within my work, but not self-identify yet. The image description is Oakley, a white woman, dresses as her alter ego James. James wears a green striped shirt, orange jacket, and star-shaped glasses. He stands tall with a cane in one hand and his other hand in his pocket. So James's work, I feel like I'm definitely a different person when I work as James, but it's strange working with an alter ego. If you've never done it, I definitely recommend looking into the history of it, seeing other artists who have done it in the past. But you get in a completely different mindset, and I'm making work as if I was a white, queer, disabled man. And it changes, that mindset changes, how I approach things. One of his pieces was, again, a performance in which he passed out flyers throughout New York City to various people and also at different locations where disabled people might be looking. But the flyer reads, "It's time we start a revolution, maybe at my house tomorrow night." This is something that I myself could never have done. I can be very quiet, and so I do not have guts to go pass out flyers to random people in New York City. But when you sort of embody that alter ego, your mind, you have this ability to shift it, and at least for me, in my personal experience, I gain a lot more confidence within the work. So that was one of his pieces. Let's see. I feel like that was very short, but I'm sorry. I'll take a moment to talk on networking real fast. Of course, this is all of our contact info, mine and Disart's and Dearest Friends. So if you want to reach out, definitely not hesitate. Networking, develop a website for your work, develop professional social media for your work, make it easy for people to find your work online. I can't begin to tell you how many jobs I have received by just having a website and an Instagram. I don't know. When you meet people, don't don't be afraid to talk about your work. Do this with confidence, never put your work down. Because, I don't know, personally, I end it with a business card. Business cards are great. That way they can find your work and your website that you got set up and your Instagram that you got set up. But I think one of the biggest things that I've learned throughout all of this is just don't be afraid to ask. Ask people to collaborate, ask them to mentor you or critique your work, ask people to show it. Because the worst that they'll say is no. And at the end of it, if they say no, you gain experience in learning how to pitch your work. So I ask a lot of people a lot of things. And it's led to a lot of really amazing collaborations, and it's led to, things like the Near Strength Project. So, yeah, I'm here. I don't know what time it is. I have no watch. I don't know how long that went, but we're good on time. Okay. We got how much time? 8 minutes. Oh, cool. Wow, I talked a long time. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah. Sorry, I give them a mic. I'm so sorry. I cannot hear.
I was wondering if one of the institutions that you asked are project with you was Grand Valley State University or any other.
If we ask Grand Rapids Valley,
Grand Valley State University.
we did not approach Grand Valley on this one. Actually, a lot of the institutions have approached us. So the only one that we've approached is Graham. The other ones sort of came through naturally. Yeah. Yeah.
Hello.
Hi.
What are your ways to stay positive about your decision given all the negative experiences that you do go through?
I'd say I'm definitely not positive throughout all of it. There's definitely a lot of times where I do have, immense breakdowns because of the stress from classes and the inaccessibilities that I face. But there's so much support within the disability community. That's helped me a lot. I have so many disabled friends that, have helped me learn how to stand up for my rights. And I think also just making art about it. Making art has really helped me process everything that's going on. And that's provided a lot of solace for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry, I cannot hear anybody with these masks on.
Yeah, thanks so much for this presentation. It's really wonderful. Wonderful to pass by the work of Claire. I wondered if you could tell us more about your charcoal drawings and portraits and the self-portraits, and maybe like how that fits into the larger trajectory of your artwork. Like, does that represent a change in your approach, or maybe just some reflections about doing portraits and
The Dear Friends one?
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It's weird. For a while, I felt that it was disconnected from my personal practice. But now I'm finding that it's becoming sort of interwoven with things. I put it. Now you stumped me. Hold on. Yeah, I mean, I've always loved to work on a massive scale. I didn't show some of my earlier works, but before my health is what it is now. Like I used to paint paintings that were 12 feet high, and so I still found, I think, you really stumped me. Let me hold on. This is gonna be a really imperfect answer. I don't know, I think Dearest Friends has taught me a lot about art making. It's taught me a lot about collaboration, and it's trickling into my work, be it through like the handwritten text, which was less prominent in my work than it is now, earlier on. And I think just finding those creative solutions, I think learning, like the vinyl, that was something that Nisar and I sort of came to a conclusion together, but it's given me a lot of hope that even though I can't create those, 12-foot paintings anymore, there's still other ways to create those really large imagery. So that was, the answer's kind of all over the place, but I hope that.
No, it's great.
Cool, okay.
I want to thank you, Oakley, for your time today and for sharing all of your experiences so openly with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And I'm really happy to partner with you and this art to bring this presentation. I encourage the students in the group to remember that you have Marie Yauts in the Counseling and Disability Services Office as a great advocate and connection. We're thankful that you joined today. We hope that you continue to seek out opportunities to engage with this art and the My Dearest Friends project. And enjoy art prize and everything that is being offered in our community right now. Thank you and have a great afternoon.